Brenner Galloway tasted blood. It wasn't the dramatic kind you see in movies, more like the metallic tang of biting your lip too hard. He wiped his mouth with a shaky hand as he pushed himself up from the jagged, red-tinged gravel. The crash had come out of nowhere. One moment he was running diagnostics on a relay tower. The next he was tumbling through the air like a rag doll in a blender. His ribs ached. Every breath stabbed him in the side. He felt his chest gingerly, winced, and cursed under his breath. "Definitely cracked," he muttered. The terrain around him was as alien as it got. The sky had a faint purple hue, and the twin suns above glared down with relentless heat. To his left, the remains of the alien transport vessel smoldered. Its hull was warped and cratered, half buried in the rock. The cockpit had been sheared off entirely. Something stirred inside the wreckage. A long, spindly limb emerged, followed by a creature that stood a full head taller than Brenner. Its skin had a cool, matte sheen like basalt, and its eyes, three of them, blinked independently. It stumbled out, limping, and collapsed beside him with a groan that rattled like a broken flute. "RRSH, system fail, no signal." Brenner turned to it. "You okay? Can you move?" The alien looked at him, then back at the sky. "Signal, must reach orbit. Rescue craft awaits." "Well, we're not doing that with your comms fried," Brenner said, eyes scanning the twisted panel embedded in the alien's forearm. "That thing's cooked, probably from the plasma feedback when we hit." The alien struggled to sit upright. "Then we are stranded." "Yeah, well. Not if I can help it." The alien's head tilted. "You are injured, terrestrial. You will not survive long in this heat, and your body is fragile." Brenner chuckled, then winced. "You're not wrong. But I've got one thing going for me: you crash with a human, and we'll try to fix the planet if we have to." "What's your name?" The alien hesitated, then made a sound like wind through hollow reeds. Brenner nodded. "I'm calling you Rell. Sound good?" Rell blinked slowly. "Acceptable." They spent the next hour dragging what they could from the wreck. Rell's leg was bent at a strange angle, and he moved with a jerky stiffness. Brenner limped, holding his side, but neither mentioned it. There wasn't time for complaints. The only shade was under a jagged rock overhang, and they collapsed there with a collection of parts, tubing, and scorched fragments. Rell tapped his ruined communicator. "We were en route to the Eris relay. A maintenance circuit. Unexpected magnetic anomaly." "Yeah, I figured," Brenner muttered. "We hit a geomagnetic pocket. Fried everything. Your tech's more sensitive than ours." "I cannot broadcast. Our rescue ship will pass this hemisphere again in 32 hours. If it does not receive our signal, it will assume total loss." Brenner rubbed his jaw. "So we've got just over a day to build something that can be seen from orbit." Rell's eyes dimmed slightly. "Without a functioning power core or transmission array, the probability is negligible." "Well, lucky for you, I'm stubborn." He set to work, sorting through the wreckage. The alien alloy was remarkably heat-resistant, but some of the smaller components showed signs of chemical scarring. Rell handed him a cylindrical object that rattled slightly when shaken. "What's this?" "Thermal containment cell. Holds xenon plasma for minor propulsion adjustments." Brenner squinted. "Can it be opened safely?" "With care, but without stabilizer fields it is volatile." Brenner grinned. "Volatile's exactly what I need." Rell stared at him. "You intend to create a flare. Better than shouting real loud, right?" He went back to the wreck, pulled out a carbon bracket and a ruptured cable spool, then began assembling tubing. It was crude, but the concept was familiar. Chemistry didn't change just because you changed planets. As the twin suns dipped lower, he laid out his plan. "We're gonna rig this containment cell to vent upward. Use oxidized magnesium from your hull plating, mix it with a bit of potassium nitrate, assuming I can extract it from the emergency rations, and we should get a decent burn. Bright enough to be seen from low orbit." Rell blinked again. "You will ignite a chemical reaction using scavenged compounds." "Exactly, like a signal flare, just interstellar." "You are insane." Brenner grinned again, then coughed hard, doubling over. The pain in his ribs was blinding. Rell moved closer. "You are not well." "No kidding." He pressed a hand to his side. "I think I need to lie down for a bit." He blacked out shortly after. When he came to, it was dark. The sky was a sea of stars, and Rell sat nearby, watching. "You were unconscious for 4 hours, Rell said. "Ribs are worse," Brenner muttered. I need a wrap. Rell reached into the salvage pile and handed him a flexible strip of alien composite. Brenner wrapped it tightly around his torso, biting down on a piece of cloth to muffle the yell. Once braced, he resumed work. The magnesium powder took time to scrape off the interior of a ruptured panel. The potassium nitrate came from a preservative coating in one of the food pouches. He combined them with sugar from a nutrient bar, grinding the mix carefully. "You are using primitive chemistry," Rell observed. "Primitive works. You don't need a quantum drive to make fire." By dawn, the makeshift flare was ready. A small chamber sealed but with a narrow nozzle. The containment cell was wedged beneath it, jury-rigged to vent its plasma in one burst. Brenner limped to a flat stretch of rock. "This spot's clear, open sky, nothing to block the flare." He looked at Rell. "We've got one shot at this. Your ship's due in 20 hours. If this works, they'll see us. If it does not, then we're either dead or very sunburnt." He paused, then added quietly, "This has to work." He knelt beside the device, lit a small flame using a piece of flint and a strip of magnesium wire. The heat caught, the chemicals began to fizz and hiss. He ducked back, the flare ignited with a roar. A column of searing white light blasted into the sky, bright as a welding torch, arcing with color as the plasma vented through the nozzle. It burned for nearly 30 seconds, then died into smoke. The silence that followed felt infinite. Brenner sat down slowly. "Now we wait." Rell watched the sky. "Your methods are inefficient, but effective," Brenner chuckled. "That's humanity in a nutshell." He leaned back, breathing shallowly through the pain. The flare had bought them a chance. Whether it would be enough, they wouldn't know until the rescue ship returned. But for the first time since the crash, Brenner felt like they might actually make it. The flare had burned out. The smoke had drifted high into the violet sky and vanished. Then there was only the brittle silence of the desert and the faint crackle of cooling metal. Brenner's breathing had turned shallow. Every inhale jabbed at his ribs like a hot chisel. He'd wedged himself against a slab of rock for support, sweat soaking through his undershirt despite the cooling dusk. His fingers trembled as he tried to open a ration pouch. "Here," Rell said, reaching over with elongated digits and tearing it open in one swift motion. Brenner gave a weak nod. "Thanks, my grip's off. You should not be moving. Your injuries are worsening." "Yeah, well, lying still hasn't been curing me either." He forced a bite of the ration bar, chewed slowly. "How long until your ship's back in range?" Rell didn't blink this time. 18 hours. Plenty of time to spiral into organ failure, Brenner muttered. Rell studied him a moment longer, then shifted closer. "You said your internal structure is composed of calcium lattice. It is fractured, couple ribs are, maybe 3. There's bleeding inside too. I can feel the pressure. You require surgical intervention. Unless you've got a portable trauma team in your back pocket, I'll settle for not puncturing a lung." Rell reached into a compartment on his hip and withdrew a thin, flexible band layered with iridescent threads. "This is a dermal regulator. It mends soft tissue, not bone, but it may slow internal damage." Brenner raised an eyebrow. "You've had that this whole time." "It is designed for our physiology." "I did not assume compatibility. Let's roll the dice." Rell affixed the band just beneath Brenner's ribcage, fastening it with a flick. A subtle vibration hummed beneath the surface, like a distant engine. Brenner exhaled slowly. "Warm, not painful." "That's a win. It may stabilize you, but you must remain as immobile as possible." "Noted, so I'll just sit here and contemplate my life choices while we wait." Rell tilted his head. "Is sarcasm an involuntary defense mechanism for your species?" "Close. It's voluntary stupidity with a coping function." They sat in the growing cold. The temperature dropped fast when the suns dipped, and the exposed rock around them radiated the heat it had hoarded all day. Rell retrieved a curved panel and propped it up behind Brenner to shield him from the wind. "Thanks," Brenner said, voice soft now. "Not just for the windbreak. You are disproportionately concerned for others, given your own condition." "Well, yeah, you were limping worse than me when we crashed. I have redundant joint systems." "Discomfort is manageable." Brenner looked up at the stars, his vision slightly blurred. "What's your crew like, the ones on the rescue ship?" "They are methodical, efficient. Not particularly imaginative." "Sounds like a blast at parties." Rell didn't respond, but his eyes narrowed slightly. Brenner decided to take that as amusement. Hours passed. The stars shifted. Brenner dozed intermittently, waking with shudders and a dry mouth. His torso felt like it had been filled with gravel and set on fire. The dermal regulator dulled some of it, but deep inside, things weren't right. Rell appeared beside him again. Your skin is pale and clammy. Internal bleeding will do that. You require hydration. Your vitals are deteriorating. Had a bottle, rolled under the wreck somewhere. He coughed, which made him gag. I'll be fine. Rell stood and moved toward the wreck, stepping over the debris in swift, bird-like movements. He returned 10 minutes later with the crushed water pouch. Minimal loss, he said, handing it over. Brenner drank in slow sips. You ever crashed before? No, I have studied emergency protocols extensively. This is my first field failure. Hell of a first time, huh? There were worse probabilities. Brenner leaned his head back. It's weird. I've worked on relay towers half my life. Never thought the part that'd kill me was a random detour on an alien maintenance run. You came to assist without hesitation. There was a signal anomaly. I troubleshoot things. That's what I do. Rell turned his gaze upward. You constructed a flare from debris. You attempted chemical synthesis using only what you could identify by scent and texture. Your body is failing, yet you persist. This is not merely troubleshooting. Brenner gave a dry laugh. We're a stubborn lot. I have observed that. With confusion. The wind picked up later in the night. Fine dust blew across the rock in soft hisses. Brenner was shivering now. His body couldn't decide if it was hot or cold. He drifted in and out of awareness. Somewhere in the haze, he felt something wrap around his shoulders. Smooth, flexible. Not human. I'm not going to make it, am I? You might. Not really an answer. I do not wish to lie. Appreciated. He let silence take over again. When he opened his eyes next, the sky was lightening. A pale gradient stretched across the horizon, but the sun hadn't risen yet. Rell was still next to him, unmoving. Hey, Brenner whispered. You still with me? Yes. Any sign? Nothing? Damn, Brenner's fingers twitched. His lips were cracked. I need another water sip. Rell handed him the pouch and helped guide it to his mouth. Thanks. His voice was a rasp now. You know, I was supposed to go home next month, had tickets to a synthwave concert. My sister got them, said I needed to unplug more. What is synthwave? Electric music, retro-futuristic vibes, neon colors. Makes you feel like you're in a dream from the 80s. I do not understand most of what you just said. That's okay, you'd hate the volume anyway. The sky brightened. The first sun crested the ridge, light touched the wreckage, casting long shadows. Brenner's eyes fluttered. Sun's up. We're below the orbital path now, right? Yes. Then we wait. They didn't speak for a time. Then, just as the second sun breached the horizon, Rell stiffened. There, he said, pointing high above. A silver glint moved through the sky, too fast for a bird, too smooth for a meteor. Brenner squinted. That's them? It must be. God, I hope they saw it. The glint slowed, then pivoted unnaturally. It circled once, then again. Rell's fingers tightened. They are scanning. They saw the residue. Then we did it. Brenner let out a cough that turned into a wheeze. Told you. Humans, we don't quit. Rell rose and extended his arms wide. A beam of light shimmered from his chest, a last signal. The craft adjusted course. Brenner leaned back against the rock. Hey, Rell. Yes. If I pass out again, make sure they don't poke anything that bleeds when they unzip me. I will inform them of your fragile organs. Appreciate it. The ship descended in a smooth arc. Dust and debris spiraled around them. Brenner watched it through half-lidded eyes, the shape of rescue approaching. He didn't remember blacking out again, but he did. His last thought was a half-formed joke about synthwave bands and alien medics, then nothing but the cool hum of morning wind. Brenner awoke in a pressure-dampened room that smelled faintly of ozone and sterilized metal. The lights above were too white, the kind that tried too hard to be non-threatening, but failed by being everywhere at once. His chest ached, but it was dull now, buried beneath something cool and constrictive that wrapped around his torso. He tried to move. His arms responded slowly, like they were pushing through syrup. A short, broad-shouldered alien stood nearby, tending to a translucent console embedded in the wall. Its skin was a soft bronze, and clusters of faintly glowing nodes blinked along its spine. It turned when it noticed him stirring, its eyes narrowing but not unkindly. "You are awake. That is slightly unexpected. Appreciate the vote of confidence," Brenner rasped. "Where's Rell?" "Compartment 4. He is functional. You were less so." "How long was I out?" "2 planetary rotations. You required surgical stabilization and blood volume correction. Your internal cavity had collected a dangerous quantity of fluid. Your breathing had become erratic." Brenner blinked slowly. "Yeah, I figured I wasn't just being dramatic." The alien stepped closer, examining the monitor beside his bed. "You have regained sufficient coherence. I will notify command." "Hold up," Brenner said, lifting a hand. "Before any command folks come in asking which protocol I violated, can I talk to Rell?" The alien paused, its expression unreadable. Then it tapped something into the console. The door panel to Brenner's right emitted a soft chime, and a moment later, Rell entered. His gait was smoother now. The joint in his leg had been reinforced with a splint of some kind, and his movement was nearly fluid again. He approached without hesitation. "You endured longer than anticipated." "I get that a lot," Brenner said, managing a faint grin. "They fix your leg." They applied a myomer brace. "It will dissolve in 3 days. Your own condition was less straightforward." Brenner looked down. A broad, semi-rigid wrap covered his chest, studded with light indicators. He could feel something deeper underneath pressure, but no sharp pain. "They said I had fluid in the cavity." "That mean lung collapse, partial, a hemothorax. They evacuated the accumulation and resealed torn tissue. Your pulmonary function is stabilizing." "Good to know. I was starting to feel like a leaky balloon." Rell tilted his head. "Your capacity for levity remains intact. Only thing I've got that doesn't need surgery." The door chimed again, and a new figure entered. This one was taller than Rell, with a sleek exoskeleton that shimmered faintly, like oil underwater. It gave no greeting, just stared at Brenner with an intensity that suggested authority and disapproval in equal measure. "You are the human technician who initiated the unauthorized chemical signal." "Technically, yes," Brenner said, "but unauthorized's a strong word. There wasn't exactly time to submit a form. You destabilized a containment cell. Our records show that vessel carried only 2 remaining thermal units. You risked total detonation." "I did the math, roughly." The alien didn't blink. "That flare was visible from 46 kilometers above the surface. It disrupted low-band telemetry and overloaded our passive sensors." "Effective, then." Rell stepped forward. "He acted within the parameters available. Without his action, we would not be here." "There are standard distress procedures," the taller alien said. "I'm aware. Your standard distress procedures were embedded in a crater with us." The alien said nothing for a long moment, then it turned to Rell. "Your report is required within 2 hours. You will submit full telemetry and environmental logs." Rell nodded once. The official left without another word. Brenner exhaled through his nose. "Charming. They are function-oriented. Not inclined toward gratitude. I've noticed." Rell sat beside the bed. "You should not exert yourself. Recovery will take time." "How bad was it, really?" "You had lost approximately 40% of your circulating volume. Your thoracic membrane was torn in 2 places." The medical team considered artificial stasis. "Glad they didn't freeze me like a dinner roll. I hate waking up with dry eyes." Rell's upper limbs settled across his knees. "I studied your actions during the incident. I attempted to reconstruct your chemical compound. It was inefficient but elegant. Thanks. I was aiming for visible from space, not a science fair ribbon. You achieved both." A small silence passed between them. Brenner shifted slightly and winced, then relaxed again. "I take it you don't get humans out here often." "Rarely." "Your species is not integrated into this patrol sector." "Probably for the best. We just redecorate everything and start naming moons after snack foods." Rell's eyes shifted. "You are unlike most sapients I have encountered. Give us a crisis, and we'll find a way to make it worse before we make it better." "Yet you made it better." Brenner's expression softened. "You helped. I wouldn't have lasted a day without you. You would have attempted to." "That is the difference." Later that day, after Brenner had managed to sit upright with assistance, another alien entered. This one was smaller, wore no armor, and carried a slate with symbols that rearranged themselves with each motion. I am from the liaison board, it began. We are reviewing the incident for procedural adaptation. Your improvisation has been flagged for analysis. Analysis or disciplinary action, both possibly. Your actions violated multiple safety constraints, but also generated a successful rescue vector. This contradiction requires reconciliation. I've got nothing against protocols, Brenner said, but sometimes they don't survive impact velocity. The liaison made a sound like a chime being plucked. We are considering an annexed protocol tier, a human improvisation clause. Brenner blinked. That's real, pending review. Your decision to use magnesium and oxidizers to create a flare exceeded known species behavior under stress. I can't decide if that's flattering or terrifying. Both, possibly. The liaison left shortly after. Rell remained with him as the lights dimmed to a softer hue, indicating the ship's artificial night cycle. I've never had a protocol named after me, Brenner said quietly. You may not enjoy the documentation. It is extensive. I'll skip to the footnotes. There was a moment of stillness. Then, what happens now? You return to your station once cleared. I remain with the patrol vessel. Right, back to towers and diagnostics. You seemed discontent with that. Brenner looked at the ceiling. I didn't think I was, but now I'm not sure. You faced death and chose creation. That may alter perspective. I guess I just want to do something that matters. You did. Brenner closed his eyes. Yeah, I suppose I did. The medical monitor hummed softly. Somewhere in the ship, an engine thrummed to life. He slept without pain for the first time in days. By the next cycle, he could walk short distances. The medical team cleared him for atmospheric re-entry 2 days later. As he stepped into the shuttle that would take him to the next outbound transport, Rell met him at the hatch. No explosion this time, Rell said. Not unless you packed fireworks, unlikely. They stood in silence a moment longer. Take care of yourself, Rell. And you, the hatch sealed. The shuttle lifted. Brenner stared out the viewport as the stars tilted around them. He'd come to fix a relay. He left having lit a fire brighter than any beacon. Nothing about that was standard. But maybe that was the point.